Adrian N. Breitfelder, City Clerk, you are hereby directed to call a special session of the City Council to be held on Monday, November 20th, 2023, at 5:30 p.m. in the historic Federal Building for the purpose of conducting a work session to receive an update on the smart traffic routing with efficient and effective traffic systems, streets.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome to a special session of the Dubuque City Council for November 20th, 2023. As a reminder to viewers and listeners, due to the nature of tonight's meeting topic, public input is not accepted. However, you may contact the City Council directly from the city's webpage at www.cityofdubuque.org/council-contacts. Attendance for the session is as follows. Mayor Kavanaugh.
Here.
Council members Farber.
Here.
Jones.
Here.
Resnick. Here. Roussel.
Here.
Sprank.
Here.
Wethel.
Here.
City Manager Van Milligan.
Here.
And City Attorney Brumwell.
Here.
Thank you. Our work session topic is smart traffic routing with efficient and effective traffic systems, streets. I will turn it over to East Central Intergovernmental Association's Director of Transportation Planning and Transit Services, Chandra Ravada.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for this opportunity today. So our goal is to provide an update on the streets project. A brief history, like in 2015, when we are having discussions with city engineering. At the time, this topic came to our minds that we need to create a system that should be self-automated and also reduce the overall staff timing, but also increase the efficiency of the system in the region. So 2015, we got the idea. Then in 2016, we started working with Federal Highway. People looked at us, we are crazy, saying doing something like this for the whole system for MPO. So it took us some time to convince Federal Highway that this can be done. And after that, in 2016, we got seed money from Iowa DOT, and we did systems engineering. The systems engineering gave an idea that, yes, this can be done, but this is pretty much a very long shot because you're talking like the whole city or the metro area working as one system, which is not easy. But then we did a request for information process, and in the process we found that, yes, there are people who can do that. Then we did with phase one. We went with phase one with a request for proposals, where we estimated the cost to be at $3.6 million. Glad that we are able to secure some Federal Highway money as well as Iowa DOT and DMAT's money in this regard and City of Dubuque's money. So in this process, we went with an RFP. In 2022, we hired Parsons to do this project. So we are in 2023, the project is in pretty much at the last stages, which will be fully implemented by March of 2024. So we want to give an update to the council today and see if there's any feedback we can get that we can make improvements before we go to a full implementation process. So with that, I want to introduce Joseph from Parsons, who is leading the project for us. So, Joseph.
All right, thanks. My name is Joseph Brahm. I'm with Parsons. I am the Parsons project manager for this project. First of all, I appreciate your time and letting me come talk to you today. And I understand some of you were in our last presentation, some weren't. So for those of you who were in the last one, it's going to be a little bit repetitive, but we're going to take it a little slower. Last time we only had about a half hour, and so we were rushing through to try and show a lot of stuff, so that was a little bit. So we're showing similar stuff, but we're going a little more detail, and if there are questions along the way, as long as they don't get too many of them, that's fine. Also, we'll save a little bit of time for questions at the end also. So we'll do introductions. We'll talk about project goals, operational concept, system schematic. We'll go through the ATMS components. We'll talk about real-time modeling a little bit, what we're doing with the traffic signals. Then we'll talk about the project status, and we're going to spend about a half hour going through a system demo and sort of showing you aspects of the system. Now, the system is not complete, but it will be complete by March, so there are pieces of it that we can't show you, but there is some interesting stuff that we can show you. So that's what we'll be showing. A little bit more about the project goals. It's really to better use your infrastructure and to balance the use of that infrastructure on your roadway network. So we're going to utilize and leverage all the equipment you have and the infrastructure you have now. We're adding a little bit to that, particularly some changeable message signs, which we'll talk about later. We're applying strategies to manage both the real-time regular operations, so we'll be optimizing your day-to-day operation of your signals and all that, but also dealing with unusual conditions out there. If there's an incident or a signal is out and in flash, whatever it may be, optimizing the traffic signal timing and other aspects of operations on a real-time basis for those. What are we using? What are the key components? We're looking at the travel demand model, so we are using real-time modeling. That is one of the key features of this that, as far as I know, is only used in one other location in the United States. That's also Parsons Project on the I-15 in San Diego. There's a significant difference in using real-time modeling than the regular modeling that you're used to for planning purposes. 10 years ago that wasn't an option because the computing power wasn't available to do that. Now we can do real-time modeling, and real-time modeling allows us to optimize the signals using the results of that modeling in real time. And you're getting better signal utilization and adjusting to unusual conditions because of that. The system is capable of being completely automated. However, when we anticipate up front, you're going to be putting in incidents manually and optimizing things over time. So we're not going to turn it on day one and let it go automatic. So there will be a period, and a quite extensive period of people having to manually tweak it and adjust it and do all that as we go. And there is also going to be a public website that is not ready yet for me to show you, but the public website will mirror a lot of what you're going to see in the system. It'll be a real-time map, and it'll be showing what's going on. It'll be information displayed to the public on a website also. With that, let me turn this a little bit this way. All right. So the concept of balancing traffic, how are we doing that? We're going to be providing real-time travel times. If you look on, now you guys are looking at the screens in front of you, it's weird for me to, to look at that. But anyway, if you look at the blue, where it says downtown via US 20 or Northwest Arterial, it is going to be displaying real-time automatically, and that is something from the day it's turned on. We'll be providing real-time travel times via different routes. So that is one of the ways we're balancing traffic. So if you're going eastbound on the US 20 and you're determining the best way to get to downtown, it's going to give this combination sign. It's a fixed sign and with inserts that are dynamic. And those dynamic inserts are going to be changing all the time, every 30 seconds or so, maybe every minute, depending on how things work out, and providing the travel times from that point to downtown. Now we have to decide exactly where that point is downtown, but the concept is people get to looking at those and they'll know, well, typically on a given day, it says 25 minutes. And if that day it says 35 minutes, they know there's a potential problem. And it will give them, well, if you take this other route, if you go up Northwest Arterial, it's only going to take 17 minutes, let's say. So a certain number of traffic of motorists will move, and they'll take that. Now, you don't want everyone to change, which is kind of interesting because only a certain number of people typically pay attention, but you really don't want everyone to move to the other route because then it'll bear their route. So you're really trying to balance it. But the system will automatically adjust. So if the travel times on the alternate route get too long, it'll show that on the signs, and it'll be updated on a regular basis. So you can see the blue dots on the map. Every one of those blue dots is one of these combination signs. So if you're routed, if you see that it says 17 minutes via Northwest Arterial, if you're going eastbound on 20, and you see that sign, and you say, okay, I'm going to take Northwest Arterial. As you approach Penn, it's going to give you another sign that says, okay, via Penn, it's going to take you 15 minutes, and via Northwest Arterial to Asbury Road, it's going to take you 19 minutes. So the fixed portion is fixed, and people will get used to that, and they'll just start looking at the dynamic part, and they'll get used to what it normally says, and they'll know when it's something unusual. So that is one way of balancing traffic. In addition, like I said, there will be a public website, and people will be able to log onto the public website. The public website will be based on what's called responsive web design, which means, excuse me, it's not just a website, it'll adjust automatically for mobile devices like cell phones. So it's responsive, so it knows what you're logging in on, and it'll adjust the look and feel of it, so it'll work on your phone, it'll work on a tablet, it'll work on a website. So people can also do that remotely. So that information, including travel times and all that, will be displayed on that website. Excuse me. So the other aspect of it is we have these combination signs. We also have a couple of the red boxes. If you look at the red boxes on the map here, those are new, what we call full dynamic message signs, DMS. So when we see later on DMS, those full dynamic message signs allow us to customize everything on the sign. And you guys have probably all seen full dynamic message signs one place or another. The system will automatically generate the messages for those signs. In addition, we're going to be passing requests for messages for the state's dynamic message signs, which are the yellow with the X's through it. Those are the state signs. So the system will recommend messages to go on the state signs also. So we're driving a system that, based on the details of what's going on, will drive the messages that go on those dynamic message signs. So there's multiple ways people are going to understand what's going on. With that, I want to go through sort of a scenario. So if you look at the red star on the map, so let's assume, and the scenario I'm going through now, we're also going to show you in the system later, okay? So I want to explain what's happening, and then we'll show you in the system what's happening at the same time. So let's assume at that red star there's an incident. Let's say that one of the 2 lanes is blocked. Traffic's backing up. There's a few ways we can find out about that. First of all, we'll have an interface with Waze. Waze events may come in, or the operators in the center may manually put things in, or the model itself is monitoring traffic conditions on a regular basis, and if it sees anomalies that are outside of the normal, it will trigger a response back to the ATMS. ATMS is Advanced Traffic Management System, that's what we're providing for you, that says there's a potential incident. Like I said, all this stuff can be automated at some point, but initially it'll be manually where someone will say, okay, there's an incident here, I want to generate a response. So when there's an incident there, whether it's manually generated or comes back from the model or through Waze, the operator confirms that the system will generate a response that puts the messages on the signs, on the regular signs, the full-size dynamic message signs, and it could say congestion ahead, or it could say accident ahead, use 52. What it puts on the full-size dynamic message sign is fully adjustable. So we'll work through with the DOT and with the agency, with the city, exactly what messages go on there. And if you've ever seen dynamic message signs, it can be a single phase or 2 phase. So it can say accident ahead on 1 phase, and it can say use 52, route 52 on another phase. Those are all configurable, settable, and changeable as we go. But the system will generate that message. It is also going to create the event, and it's going to pass that information on to the model. And the model is going to determine what to do with the traffic signal timing. So we will adjust the traffic signal timing both on Route 20 and the routes to get around that to optimize the flow to get around that. And depending on the nature and the severity of the event, we will determine what is the appropriate traffic signal timing. Now, we are working with the city right now to come through, to work through and determine potential traffic signal timing changes. And then we'll send those potential traffic signal timing changes to Aimsun, which is the model. It will evaluate each one of those and determine what is the best response based on the real-time model and send it back to us. So that's sort of what's happening there. So we're going to show you that in the system in a bit. That make sense to everyone? All right. All right, a little bit about the system. What you're looking at is sort of a high-level schematic of the system. I'm going to talk a little bit about the parts on the left in the gray box, and then I'm going to let Matt from Aimsun talk about the modeling section. So we're bringing in real-time information. Excuse me. So the model uses origin, destination information, and traffic information to build the model. That's done ahead of time. We're bringing in event details from Waze, and you guys are probably all familiar with Waze, right? Part of Google. And we're going to be providing information to them. That's the way it works. So that's another way that the motorist will get information. We're bringing in your cameras. We're looking at the cameras. We're doing real-time video analytics. And those of you who were in the session last time, we gave you sort of a demo of video analytics. How many were in the session last time and weren't? Maybe 60%.
Well, and don't forget, you're talking to everybody. We're on TV, so you're talking to everybody. So you're being recorded for posterity. So
All right.
pretend like you've never given it before.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Oops. So anyway,
Got a glass of water here, too.
Sure.
so we're bringing in the camera. Oh. Actually, I got one right here. Oh, right there. Thank you. All right. Sorry about that. So we're bringing in the cameras, and we're doing video analytics on those cameras, which basically means we're looking at, and we can count how many vehicles and what the movements are of those vehicles. So we're looking at not every intersection, a certain number of intersections based on the hardware that we have available. So if we wanted to increase the hardware, we could actually do every intersection. It doesn't matter how many we want to do. So I think we're doing close to 60 now, where we're looking at 60 cameras, and we're looking at those, and we're doing real-time video analytics. That real-time video analytics is used for real-time traffic management. It is also fed to the Aimsun traffic model to help them optimize the model. So the model will get better over time. We're bringing in Wavetronics information. We're bringing in travel time information through a Cyclica. That's basically 2 points, so it's reading the vehicle at one location and reading at another location. We're getting the travel times based on that. We're bringing in information from INRIX. Are any of you familiar with INRIX? INRIX is a probe. It uses vehicles, and some of those are trucks, some of them are other vehicles. I can't really give you details about where they get it from because it's somewhat confidential. But they get a certain percentage of it, and it's really 3 to 5%, sometimes 7% of the vehicles out there. They're getting information, real-time information from those vehicles. And from those vehicles, we can determine travel times. And actually, 3 to 5 to 7% works out pretty well, providing general travel times. Now, in the middle of the night, obviously, when there's fewer vehicles, it doesn't work as well. But in the middle of the night, when there's no traffic, they really don't care as much. But when there's traffic during the day and during rush hour, that INRIX data is pretty good. And there are multiple entities that provide this traffic information. It's called probe information. So it's vehicle probes, and it's getting that information. And they're monitoring 3 to 5% of the vehicles out there and bringing that information. So we're bringing that information in also. We're also connecting to your traffic signal controllers in the field. And the information we get from the signalized intersections and the detection at the intersections, we're bringing that back into the system also. And that's all the stuff on the green on the left-hand side. That comes into the ATMS, where we provide like I said, the video analytics. There's an iNet module for providing travel times. Travel times are interesting in the sense that we allow you to define how you set up those travel times. It's all very flexible and very settable, so if we change our mind, we can, except for now we're putting in some fixed signs, so we're trying to determine exactly where we want to go. But what we do is we group all the segments together to get a travel time to a particular point. But if we wanted to change what we said was downtown, we could move that, and you can change that in the system at any time. So the system's doing that. It's providing all that information to a centralized data warehouse. That data warehouse is where Aimson gets their information, and it also drives the rest of the ATMS. So within the ATMS, we're going to show you later how we can create an event and how we can take that event, make it available to Aimsum, and they'll generate a response as far as, or an evaluation of the responses to determine what is the right path to take as far as the traffic signals. And that's what's in that darker box in the middle. We can also deal with scheduled events, so when you have road work on the road. So we'll set up, if you have road work and it's going to affect traffic, you put the road work in ahead of time. When the road work is live, we can pass that information onto the model. The model will determine what's going to happen and what the best response is as far as the traffic signal timing. We can compare how that is all going to work in relationship to do nothing. So there will be a do nothing evaluation. The do nothings may be better off. So if there's a very minor thing out there, you may not want to change your traffic signal timing as a result of it, for example. So that's sort of what's going on in the dark box there. Then down below are some of the devices we control. So like I said, we're controlling these dynamic message signs that we showed you. You guys have what's called roadside units. We're not interfacing with those now. That has to do with connected vehicles. There's future for that. But we're also passing the information, like I said, onto a public website, and we're providing an API, an application interface for other entities to gather information real time of what's happening in the system, which could include the Iowa DOT, for example, can gather the information from that. So we will be passing that on and making it available to them. So that's sort of the schematic here. Is it going to go? Okay. Oh. All right. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the ATMS, and that's Advanced Traffic Management System. That's what it stands for. And the components of that, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because we're going to show you what it looks like. But I wanted to introduce it to you so it doesn't look, so you get a feel for what it's going to be like before we get into it. It is all map driven. So if you look on the right, there's a map in the background, and we're going to show you this in the system. All of the devices and everything that's happening shows up on that map. All of the devices are color-coded, meaning if a device is in failure, it's going to turn up gray. The details about an event determine the color of the icon on the map, and we'll show you that. You can turn on and off layers, so your operations staff and anyone using the system will be able to see from that what's going on relatively quickly just from viewing the map. And you can click on any of those items on the map and get more detailed information about that, and we'll show you that later, including any events that are going on. The system provides what I call event management, so we will be, like I said, be able to put in events manually, and we'll get event information from Waze. We can also create an event from information coming in from Aimsun. It is always, like I said, calculating travel times, and the travel times are being displayed and made available. Responses can be automated, and like I said, in the long run, it probably will be, but it'll take time for us to do that. The general responses it'll recommend, but we're requiring up front that you manually approve them before you implement them. But it will recommend the responses right from the beginning. It's controlling your dynamic message signs. We're monitoring the infrastructure. So we're determining, like I said, are any of the devices failed? Are you having issues with any of your traffic signal controllers or that sort of stuff? It'll all be monitored and all recorded. So everything that happens in the system is recorded all the time. So all that information can be used at any point in the future to provide analytics of what's going on. We are providing a fully centralized traffic signal system. Ehsan will talk to you a little bit later about the benefits of the centralized signal system. We're also providing what's called automated traffic signal performance measures, ATSPM, I always get that wrong. And that is providing a lot of detailed information in relationship to how your signals are operating. And that is information that your traffic folks can use to optimize traffic signal timing in addition to what we're doing through the system already. I told you we're utilizing video analytics, and we are integrating real-time modeling. We're going to talk about that. And as I said, we're also providing a real-time website with a responsive web design. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Matt. He's going to talk a little bit about the model.
Thanks. So as Joseph mentioned, those green boxes on the left-hand side, a lot of that first, before even getting to the real time, we worked with Chandra and with the MPO and with the city to get the historical data, because we wanted to build the model off of all the history of that's happened so that we can understand how traffic normally happens, so that we build the base case, not just based on one day or one peak hour, but on a 365 day a year profile, so that we have the different profiles. We have weekdays, we have special Fridays, we have Thanksgiving, the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, Christmas, Saturday, Sunday, and those profiles of how the traffic works on those special days. Because when you're running in real time, you want to make sure you have all the demand profiles that show who's trying to get where. Because without those demand profiles, you're not really able to understand how the traffic's going to flow through the network. We also used the regional model to bring in the initial base GIS structure for the road. What does the roads look like, the geometries, and then we used all the video feeds and all the information we can get from the city to update those for the turning bays and things like that. And that forms this core offline data set, including the model, that allows us to then put it into operation and running in real time. With that, we connect through the data warehouse to all the real-time data feeds so that every time we run a simulation, we're pulling exactly what the signals are doing, exactly all the events that are happening, if there's any accidents, crashes, weather, and also any construction going on, so that we know what the road looks like right at that condition, so that we can see how those conditions that are happening right then and there are going to look like for the next hour. And that information is used essentially to understand, is there something 15, 30, 45, 60 minutes out that is an abnormal situation? We know what historically from all of that analysis, what it should look like, but now we're able to use the model to say, yeah, but now there's a 30-mile-per-hour speed drop, or there's a delay queue for the next mile, which normally isn't there. And those are the conditions that drivers aren't usually used to. Those are conditions that you want to try and get ahead of and alleviate before they happen. So you know it's 15, 30 minutes out, so you implement something now to try and improve it before it gets to that case. Also, when there's an accident, you want to be able to know what the impacts of the accident are going to be and what you should do for that accident to make it a better case. So when we feed all of that information to INET, and we run this model runs every 5 minutes. We run a new model that in about 2 minutes tells the system this is what the next hour is going to look like. And that's just cycling continually no matter what the rest of the system is doing. This information goes to the decision engine, the rules engine, where it goes, all right, here's my problem, here's my location, what should I do about it? From there, it comes up with a series of response plans, different traffic signal actions, different diversion routes, all that sort of information, the message science that we're going to put up, and it comes up with the strategies and sends it back to the simulation model to find out which scenario is the best scenario and which should we implement it. And we run it again through the simulations, and within a couple of minutes, we're able to say, here's the % benefit, usually based on the delay and average travel times throughout the network. We'll work on that final algorithm with the MPO and with the city to sort of come up with something that makes sense, because you don't want to give a whole bunch of numbers to an operator or to the system to try and figure it out. You want to give a clear number that says, this one's a 10, this one's a 0. And we're always comparing against just doing nothing. And what we've learned with the San Diego system and some other experiments is you don't always have to do something. So sometimes doing nothing is actually the right solution. So that's one of the nice intuitive things about the model. Oh, yeah. Oh, I went too far. Okay. So I've said a lot of this already, so I did talk along on the first slide, but this one will be fairly quick. This is just sort of the flow of how it sort of looks of when we run every simulation every 5 minutes, we use the 15-minute time bases in that 15, 30, 45, 60-minute, because that's sort of the standard metric, the standard slicing that traffic engineers, traffic operations uses. And then also we do the same thing with our decision support response plans, where we run them. Those are on demand, so as soon as they want to run an evaluation, it immediately starts that simulation and runs right away, and then can be used for both the scoring and post-analysis. So one of the things we are deploying as part of this is the Aimson Live user interface, and this is not necessarily used as part of the ATMS system or for the real time, but for that post-mortem, that week after something major happened, there was a major crash on 20 or there was flooding or something like that, and you want to understand, did the system do its job? Did we predict what we wanted to happen? And even if the system did the right job and it worked well, could there have been something we could have done better? And so this system allows the planners and the city operators to go in and sort of go, well, what if I had done this? Or what if we had done this? And why did we not understand what was going on? And they can look at it and go, well, there was a secondary crash and that caused an issue at a place we hadn't anticipated, and things like that. But it's also bringing the power of having all of this data, all of this model together, and allowing the operators and planners to use it to keep the system going and continually improve the system. And with that, I'll pass it back to you.
All right. Thanks, Matt. Okay, so Asan, are you with us? Asan is online. All right, I'm going to let Asan talk a little bit about, we can hear you, Asan. We're going to let you talk about the traffic signal system upgrades.
Sure. All right. Thanks, Joseph. Good evening, everyone. So INET comes with a fully featured central traffic signal system. It is fully web-based and integrated with other modules within INET. It provides several functionalities. Some of them are listed here. We can do status monitoring of the signal system or traffic controllers in the field. For example, monitor second by second how each phases are changing, detectors are going on and off. We can look at the time-space diagram for a corridor to see how signals are coordinated on an arterial. We can use measure of effectiveness or MOE to see how each phase is being utilized at the traffic at an intersection. Now you have dashboard to see how your signals are working overall. So these are all status monitoring, and which results in improved operation. Another thing we have is fault monitoring. So we can detect if there is a failure of a device in the field, like detector or traffic signal controller itself. And if INET detects that, it will generate an alert on the UI, and it'll send notification to the maintenance crew or whoever's take care of that failure, and they can fix that as soon as possible. So that's improved maintenance. You can also do control. Let's say you have a situation in the field and you want to change the signal timings on the controller on fly and activate a different pattern or different timing plan on the controller. You can do that through INET central system. So push a button, it will change signal timing plan on those controllers to help congestion on that corridor or arterial. And of course, you can do remote adjustment of the configuration on that controller or individual traffic signal controllers, change signal timing parameters like cycle, offset, and splits, minimum timings, and detector adjustment, all the things that you can do in the field. You can do it from central system as well. Beside these functionalities, a role that iNet signal system plays in the streets project is to activating response plans at traffic signal controllers. So as Matt and Joseph explained, you run model in the background and evaluate different scenarios, and they come up with the best response plan that we should activate to fix the traffic or that incident. That includes some adjustment to signal timing or activating certain timing plan on the controller. That will go through the signal system, and signal system will take care of activating those plan on the controllers in the field. I just wanted to mention that our signal system, iNet signal system, is also traffic signal controller agnostics. It works with majority of the traffic signal controller manufacturers in the market, like Unix Graphics or Siemens, the controller that you already have, Q-Free Intellite controllers, Schwarzkopf McCain controllers, Econite controllers. So you're not locked into purchasing controller from a specific manufacturer. Using this ATMS, using iNet signal system, you can go and find the best deal you have. So it translates into cost saving. Next slide. Another product or feature we have, which is signal related, is called intelligent intersections. There are two functions to this system. One is signal performance monitoring, and the other one is signal retiming. So signal performance monitoring is done using ATSPM, or automated traffic signal performance measures. These are high resolution data that are collected from controllers and detectors in the field. The system collects those data and translate those into graphs and charts that traffic engineers can use to visualize traffic performance at intersections and to pinpoint where the problem is. When they find that, they can go back to iNet ATMS and fix or make those adjustments to fix the problem, like making changes to the timing plan or adjusting the length of split or phase. Some of the graphs you can see on the right-hand side, and it has some dashboarding tools that you can do before and after comparison of these changes. Another feature we have with intelligent intersection is automated traffic signal retiming. Usually what happens is, like, traditional retiming of traffic signal happens every few years. So you go to the field, collect traffic data, turn in movement counts at each of the intersections. You come back and put this data into software, for example, Synchro, and then you run a model, optimize traffic signals. You come up with some timing cards. You go to the field or from ATMS, you punch in those time numbers into controller, and the controller runs optimized timing, and you come back again after 3 and 5 years. Within that time frame, traffic has changed a lot. Demands has changed. Origin destination has changed. A new mall has opened. That timing will degrade over time. But what we do here is we continuously optimize signals or retime signals every few months, and we do that using INRIX prop data. As Joseph mentioned, we have prop data coming from INRIX, and these are vehicles traveling through your network. So we can measure travel time, delay that they experience at each of the movement at each of the intersections, and we use that to adjust signal timing to make sure that signals are always running near optimum timing that they should run. Back to you, Joseph.
All right, thanks, San. Any questions about signal timing? I know for people who aren't signal timing experts, that might have been a bit much, but
You know, I'm going to hold this on questions, and the reason is I know you want to get to a demo, and I think we want to see that. I'm giving us a time check. We're at 6:05. We need to start our next meeting at 6:30.
Okay.
So if we want to leave some time for questions, that gives you probably about, I'd say, 15 minutes to show us the demo and walk us through
All right,
there.
we
So
will get to it then. I'm going to really quickly talk about the status of the project and our scope and all that, and then we'll go right into the demo from there. So what you're seeing on the left really is the aspects of the scope of work for Parsons and what we're doing. So we did an operational requirements assessment and talked through all the details of exactly what we're implementing with the city. We looked at your communications infrastructure to make sure you have appropriate communications to support the system. Those are both done. We are deploying those combination signs and 2 dynamic message signs, so we're finalizing the design of that. We're going through the environmental assessment right now, and as soon as we get that, that'll move into construction. We are in the process of making the final tweaks and changes to the ATMS and the modeling and all that, again, to be done by March. So all of that customization is in progress right now, including the finalization of your ATIS as your Advanced Traveler Information System. That's the website I was talking about. And then we'll go through user acceptance testing. We'll go through a training period with your folks and plan to be live in the March-April timeframe. So that's pretty much the schedule of where we're at. And with that, we are going to move to the demo. And if we can change over to let Ranjit share his screen, that would be good. All right. This is
all right. Please let me know when you can see it.
I'm going to sit down so I can see it better. So it's up there. Yeah, we can see it, Ranjit. Maybe I can do it from here. Can you go ahead, Ranjit? And so this is the map. The map can zoom in and out. Tavares, why don't you just zoom in the map a little bit and zoom it back out a little bit? So zoom it in a little bit more. And there's a lot of stuff going on here, but what you're seeing here is we do not have the real data coming in from INRIX yet. So this is simulated data that came from the model. So the roadway segments are green, yellow, or red, determining level of traffic. The percentage of the speed limit is what it is, and this isn't active live data, so it's a little bit different than what you probably will see in the real system. But we're using this simulated data that's coming from the model to also do this demonstration for you. So all the icons you see there represent stuff. So some of those that you're seeing there are signalized intersections. Others are incidents. The triangles are incidents. Ranjit, why don't you click on something and just open it up? I don't care what it is. As far as on the map. So if you tooltip over it, you get information. If you click on it, you get more information. And he opened up and it looks like an event. We're playing with events as we're setting up the system, so there are fake events. They're not real events out on the road right now. So there's detail, so it's that. So if you look on the left-hand side, there are things you can open and close. Ranjit, why don't you go ahead and, we'll turn on and off some layers on the bottom first. So or on the left-hand side, that's fine. So you can turn on and off those. So if you turn off the signals and maybe clear up the map a little bit.
Yep.
So you can show whatever you want on the map. Make it as simple or as complicated as you want, depending on what you're looking for. So it is all run off the map. It's all color coordinated. You can see all those different icons have different colors. The colors all mean something. And the one that's flashing there is an incident that's waiting for action on it. Again, we're working on the system as we speak on an ongoing basis here, so we're putting in mock events and all that to work with it. So all map driven. So the next thing is, if you can look on the left-hand side there, Ranjit, why don't you pull a list? So this is the list window, and basically you can determine what you want to view. Why don't you pull up a couple of different things. Along the bottom are all the things we can provide in the list. So all of your devices, these are all the cameras, so you can click on any camera and get the video from the camera that's in there. You can click on any event or anything you want to list, the dynamic message signs here. So just click through a couple of different options. So it's everything can be viewed either from the map or from a list. And everything can be selected either from the map or from a list. Make sense? What are you clicking on there, Ranjit? Next one? Go down the left-hand side. Just click, click on all of the items on the left-hand side would be good. It's hard for me to see a little bit from where I'm standing, Ranjit.
So what we clicked on was the list. Now this is the multi-viewer.
Okay.
So you want me to kind of quickly...
drag a few things. So the multi-viewer is a nice little feature. It allows you to drag and drop things into or...
Yeah.
Is it adding it to it? I don't know if it's going anywhere.
Okay, this has not been configured, sorry.
All right. That's apparently not fully configured yet, but the multi-viewer allows you to add, so if you have a major event going on, you can click in and put in that multi-view where all the different dynamic message signs that are being changed, the traffic signals that are being changed, so you can see that everything's being changed as a result of that incident and see it all in one place. Apparently not fully set up yet, though. So that's that. With that, why don't you go ahead and, Ranjit, go to an event. Maybe go to the event we're going to show. So we're going to show you an event in the same location we showed you on the map earlier. And he created an event already. So if you click on that event on the map or on your list, whatever, it doesn't matter.
Looks like is Matthew Nam on? Looks like system timed out. Sorry. When this flashes, it means the system timed out.
All right, Ranjit, can you contact him and resolve it
Yeah,
quick?
1 second. Let me.
Sorry. Demos are always troublesome. Not always, but they can be. Give them just
Will that take a few minutes?
It might take a few minutes, I'm not sure.
We can ask a question while we do that.
Yeah, ask
That's all right.
questions while we're
And before we go to questions, I want to, it's great to get into the details and into the weeds with this because it's a fascinating system. But as we talk about this from a much higher level, remind us of what the point is again. Just to center us all as what are we trying to do here with this system? Because I think we get it, but I want to make sure
at the
everybody
highest level, what you're trying to do is optimize the utilization of your roadway without actually widening the roads. Right? Widening and expanding on the roadway infrastructure itself is very expensive, very difficult to do. So what this is doing is allowing you to optimize your roadway network without actually adding lanes. And what you're doing that by balancing traffic. Mm-hmm. So as you've probably seen at one point or another, one road might be very congested and the adjacent road isn't because people don't know to take it. So we're helping them take the right route to optimize their traffic. You're also letting people know ahead of time by that website and other means and through Waze and all that. Maybe they should wait 20 minutes before they leave, right? So you're tweaking the travel demand through the websites, you're optimizing the balancing of the traffic, and you're optimizing your traffic signal timing, because traffic signal timing is based on the number of vehicles that are typically using the road. So most traffic signal timing, and the least sophisticated is just running it by time of day, right? And you have different traffic signal timing by time of day. And it gets worse over time, as Hassan was saying, if you don't do anything. So you go out there, you have the traffic signal engineers set up the traffic signal timing by time of day, and it'll switch by time of day. But as things change, it's getting worse and worse. Well, this system will help you re-optimize it automatically over a period of time based on that probe data that we were talking about. But will also help you manage the traffic signals during an event. So when there's really unusual conditions, for example, if you're coming up to a closed road, let's say Route 20 was closed in that scenario. If the road is closed, there's no point in giving traffic signal timing to the through lanes, right? You want to take as much possible away from that and optimize your left-hand turn so people can get around that event, right? And then in the routes that they're taking, the alternative route they're taking, you want to change the traffic signal timing because there's more traffic taking that alternate route to get around the event. So that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to optimize your traffic signal
I'm
timing.
going to oversimplify this, but I'm going to tell you what I hear when I hear you saying this. It's going to make our life easier on the road. This is going to get better as far as getting from one place to the other across our city. That's the whole point here, really, when it comes down to it is,
right.
And to do it in a way that people aren't generally going to notice, from what I'm understanding. It's just going to be happening, and all of a sudden you're going to be getting places faster than you were before. And
So particularly during incidents, you're not going to notice, you're going to say, okay, I got around this incident and it wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for this, it would have been much worse because the traffic signal timing wasn't going to be optimized for you to get around the traffic event, right? And it would have took you a lot longer. So it's not always easy for the motorists to see, but they're improving it a lot. And the model will actually show you those results. And Ranjit, are you ready for us yet?
So it so happened the hourly script started restarting the service, so it'll take a couple of more minutes and the service should start up. I think it's the hourly clock that.
That's okay. Let's go to another question because I see. Ms. Farber, go ahead.
So you talked about traffic signal timing and the system schematic. And part of that discussion, you had mentioned Google and Wavetronics, or the Google Map, and the AI that's associated with that. So I'm driving in my car, and I have a GPS system, and on my screen, it's going to say traffic alert. It's going to try to reroute me because there is an incident. how are you planning to share the information with my GPS in my car and the system update?
So
How
we
does
will
that
have
work?
a two-way interface with Waze, which is part of Google.
Right.
So we will be getting Google events or Waze events from their system, and we will be providing them our events on the outside. We'll be passing the information back and forth. So it'll automatically get updated with Waze and with Google.
Okay, so it's an open architecture
Yeah.
that is.
Well, it's an open interface, yeah, an open
Yeah,
API.
sorry,
that we
open
will-
interface, yeah.
Yep,
Okay.
that's correct.
And that's normal procedure?
Yeah, it's well, not all agencies interface with Waze, but I think it's a lot more popular now than it was a few years ago. A good percentage of agencies share information with Waze.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And who's going to monitor it for us in the city? Who's going to be your point of contact here in the city? Is it ECIA? Is it someone in the engineering department?
Oh, well, it's Dave Ness and his folks.
Yeah,
who will be
raise your hand,
managing
Dave.
the system. Yeah. It's right here.
Joseph, I'm ready to share the screen.
Okay, if you can.
One second, see if Ms. Farber has anything else. Are you?
Yeah, thank you very
Good
much.
for
I
you.
just didn't know who personally was going to be the analytics expert from the city.
Okay, great.
Appreciate that.
We'll go back to Rajit, and then I know you have a question too, Mr. Resnick. We'll come back to you at the end here.
Rajit?
Yes, I'm sharing my screen. I apologize. The service just started. I didn't realize that. So the event that you were talking about, Joe, is open now. The viewer where the event was created on the highway, on the street.
Okay. So what you're seeing right here is the event window. And like I said, events can be manually entered by operations folks. They can come in through Waze, or we can create one from information coming back from AIMSUN as far as unusual traffic conditions. And you can see some of the details there. You can determine how many lanes are blocked. So if you find out from your video cameras that there's a lane blocked or a full closure, you just change that in the system here. You determine, the operator is going to say, okay, what do we think the severity is? And he's also going to determine the duration. So it's really the severity determined by the operator, or the characteristics of the event, the duration, and the lane blockage pattern that is the primary information gets passed from our system onto AIMSUN and in the AIMSUN model. And from that, the AIMSUN model says, okay, wait a minute, I don't have the capacity anymore that I should because the lane's blocked. And as a result, there's going to be changes in the traffic flow and what happens with that. So this is an event that we put in previously. And this event, we generated a response plans with potential traffic signal timing changes, which, Ranjit, why don't you go to that response?
It's generating right now.
Okay. So it's gonna take a little bit of time for this to generate. We're doing it real time, and this isn't exactly optimized yet. While he's doing that, we'll talk a little bit about, it is also looking at the projecting out, and actually will update that map based on what it thinks the traffic is gonna be like in 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and 60 minutes. So not only will the users be able to determine, okay, if we do nothing, this is what it's gonna look like. And is it changing that? I can't see it from here, Ranjit. Are you changing the?
Yeah, it's still running, Joe.
It's still running.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's kicked up the service, yep. This will probably take like a couple of minutes, yeah.
While we're waiting for that, so they don't all have to sit here, why don't you go, the other aspect of the system, it has reports. Do you want to show us a couple of reports, and then we'll come back and this will be done. So the system, like I said, logs everything. It logs all the traffic information that we're collecting, and it's all saved. It logs all the operator action, it logs all the events, it logs everything we pass to and from other systems, and it generates various reports. So this is a VDS's vehicle detection station, so this is information that it's pulling in, and it charts it and graphs it so you can see historically what's happened. Just pull up a couple of different examples maybe around it.
Sure. This is the 15-minute one.
In all of this right now, there's not a lot of real data in here, so the graphs and reports aren't as interesting as they will be when the system's live. And can you
And I
pull
can
up maybe
also
an event
show-
detail?
There's also events. Yeah, we can show the events too. Let's say 14.
And then, as you can see, this is all the event details. And along with the event details, you get all the responses that are associated with it, but there's nothing on that yet. So you'll be able to see at any given time what you did during the day as far as events and what you responded to and what those responses were. Do one more thing. The system handles all the administration of all the users, so you can have different levels of users. So if the city wants, anyone can have access with the right rights and limited rights. So if you want to give someone a view-only right so that you don't want them to be able to change things, but you want them to be able to see what's going on. So if someone wants to see the map on a regular basis, you can do that and provide them with appropriate rights and the communication connections to it, the rights to see what's happening in the system, and maybe they can't generate responses or do anything with it, but they can see what's going on. So this is what it is. It basically combines device rights, user rights, and user groups and device groups, and from that you can create whatever rights you want for whatever user. And I think, Ranjit, you want to go back to that event, or do you want to?
So, can we quickly show the signals dashboard too before we get there?
That would be fine.
Yes. I know I generated that.
You're confusing me now, Ranjit.
No, we're just doing the signals dashboard real quick.
Okay.
And then,
So there are various dashboards available in the system. This is just the operation of the signals, and you can see the pie charts on the left and the signals on the right and what it is. But there are various dashboards in addition to reports that are available through the system.
so I'm just curious if Matthew Nam was on the call, because he was supposed to generate the response plan for this, and it should have completed by now. So he did join this call.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I am generating as we speak.
Okay, so it's still in progress. Okay.
So I apologize. This is being slow. Like I said, nothing's optimized yet.
Never works when you want it to, and as far as a demo, right?
Yeah.
Well, with the time we have, I do want to get to some council questions, and we'll because I think we've seen quite a bit here. So, Mr. Resnick, I know you had your hand up over there.
Okay, great, thank you. So traffic signal timing changes, will they change the length of the yellow light as well?
I don't think typically you change the yellow. That stays constant, right? For the traffic signal experts? Yeah. It's it's the split
Yes.
that would be changed as far as how many people are going, it's allowing to go through, how much time it is for the through movement versus the left-hand turn movement versus the right turns and that sort of stuff. So that's the primary thing you're changing. You could change the offset. You could also change the cycle length, right? I got the right ones, right? I'm not the traffic signal expert.
And for example, when you've got an incident.
You have to be at the microphone.
For example, one of the big things is when you have an incident and you're rerouting, one of the things that gets overlooked is the left turns. It does not take many vehicles to really overwhelm the current signal timing. So having timing plans in there that can handle that increased left turn to get to the diversion route is one of the critical things. But it's giving more green time because the yellow time is more about safety.
Right, and it doesn't, also quick question, it doesn't change the amount of time that, this goes red and then like a half second later, then the other lights go green. That timing is the same.
That's the same.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Absolutely. Yeah, Ms. Bethel.
I just have a question about security of the system and experiences. I know this is not anything that's been used extensively in other municipalities of our size. So I'm just curious as to what you could share with us about the security and what that looks like. That's a brief answer, I understand, sorry, but.
Right, security is an interesting one. The system allows for, like I said, user-specific rights for specific users, and only those people are going to have access to the system. In addition to that, usually, the system is a thin client, so it's browser-based. Usually it sits behind your firewall also when you have to VPN into it. Most agencies will say in addition to the access control that's in the system itself, it sits behind your firewall so people in the public can't get access. They got to get through your firewall through a VPN. And then there's the rights built into the ATMS itself. And I don't know, Ranjit, you want to add any more to that?
Yeah, sure. And also as a product, our INET is also maintained by Parsons. We have a security team that runs security scans on an annual basis. In fact, there are some clients who expect us to run security vulnerabilities on a quarterly basis, and we are supposed to make sure that if any vulnerabilities are flagged in any of the client side, we address that, with the right mitigation and action plan. So we keep up our product to make sure that it's a extremely secure product, meeting a lot of those security criteria posed by the client. Did that answer your question?
Thank you.
So.
Yeah, I think that was kind of my main question that I'm thinking about as we think about a system like this, something that's very new, that has a lot of great capability to make our life better. How could it be used to make our life worse? Is the question I was thinking. The HAL 9000 problem. I mean, what could happen that would make it problematic? And I guess, do we have safety mechanisms in place so it doesn't decide it wants to cause traffic jams instead of help us fix them? Or that another human being could come in and cause traffic jams instead of helping us fix them?
Sure. It's an interesting question. For example, Dwayne and the key users of the system will have a lot of rights to be able to change traffic signal timing and that just like they do now. So that isn't, we're not taking rights away from Dwayne to modify his traffic signals. However, the system now gives them the ability to see the results of the timing before it actually changes. And I just noticed he got the simulation now to run here, and this is one of the advantages. So before a system like this, there's a couple of things that would have been complicated. First of all, every time you do a traffic signal timing change, you're estimating what's going to happen from it, but you don't have a model to generate it. In this case, and also in doing those sort of traffic signal timing changes real time for an event or an incident, very, very difficult. And most traffic engineers would say, I'm not going to change the traffic signal timing as a result of this incident because it's too complicated to do it and too easy to make a mistake, right, in making those changes. What this system does is allows the engineers to set things up ahead of time, determine the potential traffic signal timing changes ahead of time, and then the system will model which one is likely to provide the best result. So it's minimizing the chances of you making a mistake or doing something you shouldn't do that's going to make matters worse. Now, that being said, I mean, we're not going to take rights away from Dwayne so he can't make changes if he wants to. But it is also behind this secure firewall in your VPN, and it's got all the right rights for the right people. So it is less likely that someone's going to make a change that's going to make matters worse because we're going to model them ahead of time. With that, I want you to draw attention to the screen. They did get this to run through.
We have about 1 minute.
Okay.
I do
all right, we're going to be very quick. In this, what it's showing here in the bottom part of this is we send responses, suggested potential responses based on what we coordinated with the engineers ahead of time and put in the system and said, okay, these are the potential traffic signal timing changes we want to make. The system passes that on to AINSM. AINSM sends back the results of that in scores and says, this is the one based on the score that is the most likely to provide the best response. So instead of you picking the wrong one as an engineer without having the model, we're setting up ahead of time the potential timing changes like flushing left-hand turn movements, how much time we take from one movement to another movement, and the system will score it based on a real-time model, which is only going to be better, you would hope, than a person who's just saying, well, I want to make this change, and you really didn't have anything to base it on except for their engineering speculation. So you can see their scores on there, and I can't read them from here, but there's the... Can anyone read those for me? Top score is what? 2 minutes, 2 minutes.
These are the different prediction time for the next 15, 30, 45, 60.
Ron, so, I can't read those. The top scoring one was what? What was the score on it?
First one is the do nothing, and the scores is yet to come back, Joe. It's still running through the scores.
So all the simulation, all the simulation need to come back from AIMSM for the final scoring to be complete. Now, the simulations are only partially finished, so you could see that only 34% of the evaluations has returned to INET. And when they're complete, then you'll see the score and the best plan recommended by the system.
Well, Joseph and team, thank you very much for this. This is a great introduction for us to be able to see this and see how the system is going to be working, get the general idea of what we're looking at, being able to experience in February and March of this coming year. So thank you very much
All right,
for
thank you for your time. I
time you're
appreciate it.
spending on it and all the
All
work
right.
you're doing, and we're looking forward to seeing this in practice here.
All right,
Well, with
thank you.
that, we are going to be at the end of our work session, and there being no further business, we will be adjourned. We'll start our regular meeting here in about 1 minute.